Yeah. I'm looking at, okay.
And the power play, we've been living off our power play. It's like 50% right now. So we want to keep working on that power play penalty kill because that seems to be what we're good at. And we weren't moving the puck as well as like to, so we're going to play a one pass in each zone game. And what else are we doing here? Yeah, well, high-low shooting, I like to start off where they're carrying a puck. So they do a lot of skating and puck handling on that. And give and go, we don't do many give and goes. Gonna play a game for that. Gonna do another one where the D passes on each side, both D, they go across like this. It's from the Canadian women. And then they move up to take a shot.
Yeah.
And then a drill that almost everybody uses one-on-one, and then the D joins the next rush and the forward back checks, and we'll go to 2-on-1 to make it three there. And I mentioned that one power play. Yeah, we have two power plays, so they'll go through them. Jim takes him at one end, and I go through the penalty kill.
Yeah.
So basically, to get ready, we're playing Airdrie in Airdrie, and then we're playing Red Deer's coming here. Red Deer's got a really good team. So just to kind of prep for things that I've seen happening.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest reason of all. I'm not sure how many coaches actually plan a practice based on what their team's not doing or doing well or not doing well. I'm assuming that's the case. And Sammy, I don't know when you were managing the professional team, did you observe practice? You went to games and then you observed practices. Did you see the connections that they were making to improve in their planning?
Sure. I mean, like you said, being the GM and the president, you're not as involved in the day to day. I would see practices, but I would look at it more from a culture perspective than I would from the day to day nitty gritty of what happened on the weekend and this is what needs to get improved. However, I'd have that conversation with the coaching staff. They worked diligently hard on making sure that they were improving, and it was definitely noticeable. So my 1 year GM, I was a GM with Courtney Kessel. She was our coach. She was a first year head coach, young coach coming in, um, supported by two um, older men that had been coaching for a long time. And she chose them as mentors and wanted their expertise too. So she had been an assistant. Jim Nyhouse had coached with her in Oakville with the juniors. So yeah, I saw them work diligently hard to make sure that it improved. And we were not really great with the Toronto Furies at the beginning of the season. And she got us to a point where we just clawed into um, the playoffs and then almost ended up beating Calgary, who won the whole thing in the fifth game. But um, the same thing with the Toronto Six is that Angela James was the GM, so she was more in charge of the day-to-day hockey operations, and then Geraldine Heaney was the head coach and had two amazing assistants that they could just kind of have conversations about. And Angela was way more involved in the day-to-day hockey because our roles were split there. Whereas in Toronto, being the GM there, it was like you are also the president and in charge of all the business operations. But no, I certainly did not do the amount that Tom talks about in terms of reflection because I had coaches and managers that could do that. But I would certainly put in my 2 cents during our coaches meetings. So we would meet once a week on the Monday after the games from the weekend as sort of a staff. And I would ask questions. You know, I think that that's part of what the management role is asking questions. And but you do have to leave it up to your coaching staff at some point to. That's why they're there, and that's why they're good.
Tom, have your coaches shared their thoughts with you?
Yeah, we talk, you know, all the time, dressing room and before and after games about what the kinds of things that we got to be better at and make sure that we're good at, you know. So they always have input. But I take what they say, then I make the plan.
Yeah.
So I make the plan basically on my own, and they may ask for something, for time for something or other, and I put that into it. So that's my main role with this team is the practice. So I use my background and all that kind of stuff to plan the practices, and I let them run the bench. Mila
Well, so
changes the
like during the
forwards, Emily
games,
the D. But
you're letting them take over more?
well, I'm on the bench, but they run the changing lines, and I'll say they'll run something by me if they want to change something, or if I think they need to, change the lines up a bit or stuff like that. Then I'll tell them. So they
You
basically have
give
a
them the
plan going
autonomy to
in.
be able to make those changes.
Pardon me?
You give them the autonomy to be able to make the changes on the go.
Yeah, but they have to. We run it by me that they're going to change the D pair or
Mm.
this kind of stuff, or you know, and half the time Jim is on the bench and he was really involved with the forwards too. So it all depends on what the game is. Like on Saturday, I won't be there, nor Jim, just because it's my daughter's 50th birthday, and it's kind of something I can't believe that we never play at night on Saturday, but it's an evening game and it's her 50th birthday party, and it's kind of a thing
Big
that
deal.
I absolutely
So,
have to be there.
Tom, my birthday is in March. So in four months, I turn 50. So I'm only 4 months younger than your daughter. That's awesome.
There you go. Well,
Yeah,
hers
that's
is on
fun.
the 17th, but the birthday party's on the 15th because it's a
Mm,
Saturday.
gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to that, and Emily's certified enough to be on the bench, and they'll run it. It's against Airdrie. We played them about 4 times. I think we won three and lost one, so it's a pretty good team.
Well, and it gives them a chance to be in that leadership role too, right? For Emily, like that's probably really great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have confidence in them, and and they have a really good relationship with the girls. You
That's
know,
awesome.
See, Tom,
that's
you've worked with them for how many years? Like as players and then
I
coaching
coached
with you.
Emily for two. Jim coached Mila, and Brooke is also on the bench. I coached her for two. And Kalen, as a U18, Kalen was my goalie in college. Of course,
Mm.
I coached Jim a lot, and he's helped me coach various teams. But yeah, I mean, she's been with me coaching for 3 years, her and Mila.
That's fun.
Sammy,
Um,
your point of asking questions, um, that's sort of the art of coaching and leadership is asking questions and filtering everything that you're told as a head coach to make a decision on what you're finally going to do. And I, I'm working at different levels with coaches with different levels of experience. And having coached over the years, I was like Tom. When I head coached, I let the D coach change the D, the forwards coach change the forwards. Um, I didn't really worry about matchups. I didn't look at chemistry and switching lines uh, when I was coaching the oval team. I just left it to them. And the only thing, when a player was too tired heaving, I didn't want them to go back out too soon. And that was about the only time I intervened. but I was sort of a bench roller.
Wally, I have a question. Did you watch the rivalry series?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a chance to. I was involved in minor hockey games. Just got a call from Hal. Hi, Hal. Oh, I'm sorry, Hal. I don't see you in the waiting. Oh, there. I don't see you in my waiting room. No.
Yeah, my role kind of on the bench is I look at the game through the coach's eyes. So
Mhm.
because I'm not busy doing that, and that's what I'm kind
Okay,
of
Hal,
doing
I've
is
got you.
thinking we
You're
do
in
this or
now.
do that. Well, and that's kind of how I decide what we're going to work on in practice.
Go, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, when
We're
I'm watching
talking
the game,
about
I'm watching through
managing the
coach's
bench
eyes.
when you're a head coach, and um, Sammy Joe brought up the point of, to what degree what responsibility do they have on the bench? Do you run both sides of the bench or whatever? Tom, can you explain your process?
Well, I have my assistants running the changes and
You
all
got to
that kind of
unmute,
stuff.
Tom.
Pardon me?
I can hear
Can you
Tom.
hear me?
Unmute,
Yeah, I can
Tom.
hear Tom.
Oh, I don't know how I got muted here.
No, you didn't, Tom. I can hear you. Can you hear
Yeah,
me, Tom?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because
Still not
yeah,
getting
like,
you, Tom.
Wally, can you hear me? Wally, can you hear me? I think his computer is turned down.
yeah, maybe.
Wally,
Yeah, I got it. I got him
can you hear
now.
me?
Yep, I can hear you,
Okay.
Tom.
Hi, Al.
Okay. Hi, Hal. Good to see you. Oh, you're on. Hal's on mute, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we were talking about bench management, and when you're a head coach, if you can think back to a time when you had assistants with you on the bench, and how did you manage that bench? How did you work with your assistants? Did you run things, or were you sharing duties? Were they competent enough to handle things? Um, well, what's your experience on that, Hal?
Hal, you're on mute, but it doesn't look like you're on mute. It just looks like your phone is not hearing you.
Okay,
Do you have a headset connected maybe that is not being used?
I just shut my phone off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Wally. It's
Oh,
only Hal that but he's not on mute, so it's something with his phone. He might be connected to
yeah,
a
just
headset or
I
something.
shut my phone off, Hal.
Yeah, we still can't hear him.
I hear him.
You hear him through your phone, I think. Is your phone?
No, I've disconnected. Oh, I'm
Okay.
disconnecting now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I've disconnected the phone now.
Okay, so now he should be able to talk to us.
Okay, Hal, can you try again?
Or maybe if you can hear us, maybe disconnect altogether and then try calling back in. Oh, try talking, Hal?
Hal, can you see if you
Is
can?
that better?
Yes,
There you
Yes,
go.
yes,
you're
we
on.
can hear you.
Thank you. So to answer your question, I tend to uh, we split up defense and forwards, and I let my assistant coach. Typically, they like to coach the forwards, and if we have an uneven number, it's a lot of work to get everybody in and out and do it right. But and then I have a little more time to watch the overall game. And then if a decision needs to be made, then I make it, whether it's pulling a goaltender or, I might talk to my assistant coach, and if we're doing game management types of situations, last 2 minutes, tight game, talk about who's going next. What are we going to do? We kind of work that out together. I have a philosophy: if you have assistant coaches, you got to let them coach. You can't, because the games are the fun part. And so, anyways, that's the answer to that question.
Well, hell, I'm glad you're on now because I wrote down a couple of things that I wanted to get you to talk about. And I guess the first thing of all is, how did you start coaching? What got you into it?
A random phone call while I was out. I was skating at the University of Minnesota as an ineligible transfer student. They had a junior varsity, and I banged up my shoulder again. So I wasn't skating, and I got a phone call from a guy that said, "Would you like to come coach our midget team?" And I hemmed and hawed, and I said, how much skating can I do? And they said, well, we got our own rink. You can skate all you want. And I said, okay. So I said, I'll give it a try. I'll see. And I went and I liked it. I like coaching. And probably subconsciously, I was realizing I probably wasn't going to play for the Gophers. And so, because that was my sophomore year, so I wouldn't have even been eligible until my junior year. And I really liked the coaching piece, and that was the beginning of the journey. It's now 50 plus years, or 55 years, I think, or something like that.
You're not that old, are you?
Well, I'm 74. And I didn't go to junior hockey for 3 years because nobody went to junior hockey then.
You know, when you played and then started to coach, this is a personal thing for me, but coaching satisfaction for me exceeded playing satisfaction. And I don't know how many coaches feel that way, but I I just found the challenges of it and the engagement in the big picture and details and all the things that you have to be aware of and connected with. I found that exciting. And as a head coach, being responsible uh, was pretty exciting. And over the years, I think I went from running the show, not using assistants, to almost using my assistants to take advantage of their strength and cover up for my weaknesses, which really was bench management. I rolled lines and I didn't try to shorten them at any time. And
No.
they managed the bench a little tighter than I did and rewarded ice time for the right reasons and probably took it away for the right reasons. I didn't really watch that unless I was head coaching. And I know when I did head coach and sort of dictate things, um, I tended not to be successful. And that was one of the reasons I'd found when I had assistants run their end. I could watch the game. Like you said, hell, you can't watch the game and run both sides of the bench.
I agree. The downside that I've learned over the years is, however, assistant coaches that want to be the head coach. You have to manage the assistant coaches also, and I've had a couple scenarios where we've had 2 or 3 assistants when I was coaching the high school boys team, and and I had told them I'm not going to be doing this forever. Well, for them forever was like 6 months, and they started doing stuff. But I don't want to say behind my back, but they were doing things that would be more in the purview of the head coach's responsibilities, and then eventually working their way into a scenario where they could become the head coach. And I always saw it happening. And when it happened at the last high school I was coaching at, and it's like I was ready to be done anyways. I mean, if that's the kind of culture they're going to put up with, then I'm done. And because there's never a shortage of places to coach. So and to your point, Wally, in regards to the satisfaction, I look at my coaching career in sort of 10-year increments. And the first 10 years, I was still better than the players. As a player, I was better, even longer than that, maybe 15 years. But I learned after a while that if you're running drills and if you're as a coach, if you're on the ice and you're sweating and breathing hard, you're not coaching, you're playing. And you can demonstrate some stuff, but running, skating drills means you're not watching what's going on. And I was very lucky to end up actually for the first at least 15 years and even longer with pretty talented kids. So there wasn't as much. I mean, we won a lot of games, and because frankly, we just had more talent than most of our opponents. And I seemed to have a knack of getting more out of the kids than previous coaches had done. And then I got to thinking about that, and I'm going, why? Why is this happening? And I really didn't know. I'm not sure I know now either. But I think it comes down to building the right kinds of relationships and creating the right environment for the kids to play their best hockey, whatever that is. And I mean, I remember a game a bunch of years ago, but between periods, we're in the locker room and the visiting team's in the other locker room right next to us, and we're winning the game, pretty handily. And their coach went in and threw the garbage cans around and screamed and yelled and intimidated the kids. And and we were sitting right there. We could hear through the heating, the air vents. We could hear everything that was going on. And I told my players, just be quiet and listen to this. And they just sat there, and we went out and scored 5 goals in the next 5 minutes, and their kids were just totally demoralized by their coach. And I've never done that, and I just think that for some reason or another, I get good results on a relative basis. That doesn't mean we win the championships all the time, but we've won 4 or 5 of them, but not. I look at the talent I have in the competitive environment that we're in, and I like to look at the history of what that group has done through their career. What level, how successful were they? And my goal is to do better than that. And almost always that's happened. We've had a couple of years where we've had some players that just kind of crashed and burned the team, or parents that did. But because I found a book, it's the guy from the Positive Coach Alliance, has written the Double Goal Coach. We want to win, but it's how we win. It's how we treat players. And I read that book and I said, this is amazing, because I've already learned everything in there on my own, or almost everything. And here's a guy that put it all in one book that you can read, and it's like how to coach youth athletics. And he was a basketball guy; he wasn't a hockey guy, and it all makes so much sense. He was a professor at Stanford or something. And so for me, it's been an intellectual journey by decade, and this is a whole new decade of players and the environment that we're coaching in, and it's not the old way. I can that for sure. And the technology is changing, and so you can ask more questions, or I'll just keep talking, whatever you want, Wally.
Keep rolling. You're on a roll, buddy. I
So
go
yeah,
ahead.
well, statistics. So every you know all of our rinks have got multiple cameras up on the roof taking video of our games, and within 24 hours or less, we've got a full video breakdown from TPE with all the stats. Every player gets a link to every shift, a file of all shifts that they took during the game, for them to open it up and look at them. The stats are astounding, and I had told, and this, I guess I got this from you guys, from Tom, the 150, the goal is to make 150 passes, completed passes in a game. And I told my players that before our first game the other day, and they did pretty good. They had 236. And, but we have a tougher game today, so we'll see how that goes. But it also records how many unsuccessful passes and where those unsuccessful passes occurred, what zone it. I mean, the level of detail I think, is astounding. It's not 100% accurate, I don't think, because I don't know how they come up with this stuff, but
Algorithm, I think.
I think you're right. And Huddle has it, and TPE has it, and there's 2 or 3 services that do it. And I think it's interesting that it's against the rules for me to go to an opponent's practice or game and video that game. But now I can go on the system, and everybody's stuff is out there. And so where I'm going with this is, I think it's almost too much. It can be used for good or it can be used for evil. And I think for coaches, I think it's informative. But you should probably already know, inherently, if you've been doing this a long time, you kind of know what's working and what isn't. And but this puts a little meat on the bones, I guess. I was talking to a player in the locker room before the game, and she was meticulously taping her stick, like this. It actually mattered. I said, "So how many shots do you think you take in a game?" Oh, she says 8 or 10 for sure. Well, in the first game, she took 0. And I know she's not taking 8 or 10. I mean, she's on the third line. And, she'd do maybe 8 or 10 a month. But I have found that, I think the statistics are for coaches. I'm not so sure the players zone in on them. Jim Johnson had come up with a system called on-ice effectiveness rating, and he'd go through the video when he was coaching whatever the AHL team was for the Lightning, and he would post those in the locker room, and we would do the same thing. I modified some of those statistics for the high school level, but the interesting part is that the kids, only about half the kids would even look at it, because they know they didn't block shots, they know they turned the puck over, they know they didn't score a goal, so part of our discussion, especially next week with our players, is going to be, what role are you playing on this team? And it's an important role, but not everybody can be the goal scorer. And we have to find ways as coaches to make players understand how important their roles are, like on the third line. What is your role as a player? And I think that's important. And so I think there's, I'll circling that back up. I think there's too much emphasis on the statistics and endless video watching. Our new Bantam coach is running 1.5 hour video sessions for the Bantam team once a week. And when I was talking to Jim Johnson a couple days ago, he was on his way from Calgary to somewhere scouting. He works for the Anaheim Ducks. And he says that they never run a video session. They do it by position, and they never run it for over 5 minutes. He says because the players quit paying attention, and that at his level. And I think at our level, 5 seconds is sometimes a long stretch for some of these kids. So, anyways,
Hal, you talk about everybody playing a role.
yeah,
And, it's sort of an art of motivating all players and making sure they feel valued.
yeah.
And can you talk to that and what you've done to make that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, my conversation with this,
Lost you again. Sammy, while we're waiting for him to get back on, what are you thinking about? Because when he was talking about roles, I thought of the book, The Role I Played, you wrote. And I'm just, Hal, are you back on talking?
Like he's back, yeah.
I still can't hear him. He's trying. But
While
anyway,
we're
Sam,
waiting, Wally, can you hear me while we're waiting?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I have to leave at 11:30 because I have a client call, but I want to tell you that we celebrated Jennifer and Danielle and well, Brianna Decker also
Yeah.
this weekend. Oh,
I
there's Hal.
saw,
We can't hear you though.
I watched the whole thing and I saw your happy face, and uh, it was really good to see all of you there. You have no idea the satisfaction for the old guy me sitting there watching, seeing you, and then seeing everybody on stage. It was like we knew them all, and I was just so impressed with all of the talks. And Danielle was really, she was very articulate.
Yeah, hers was great. And she had they each got to kind of have a party. So Jennifer had one on Friday night and then I think Danielle had one the next night. But um it was really fun to see Julie Healy again. And Ken Defton came to both. And Mel Davidson was there. So like lots of the older coaches that came in to support them too was really fun.
Hal, we're just talking to Sammy while
Yep.
we lost you.
Yep.
And when
Oh,
you
there you
mentioned,
go. We can hear Hal. So go
You
ahead,
can hear
Hal,
me.
because I have to leave at 11:30, so I love hearing the stories. Keep going.
and when you
Well,
said everybody has to feel valued on the team and have a role, and
yeah,
as soon as you mentioned that, I thought of Sammy and her book and the role she played.
yeah, for sure.
And little does, well, I'm sure she knows, but wouldn't admit it. The role she played, even though she wasn't starting, was enormous on the rest of the team. Uh, I, Sammy, I on the weekend at Wickfest, I stepped in on one of Healy's was talking to a group of over 100 young athletes and parents, and
Mhm.
she talked about you and your role because
Oh, that's nice.
she was asked about the players that made the biggest difference for her, and she brought you up and so appreciated the influence you had on everyone else because you managed to stay positive and um, just made people feel good around you. And the role you played had a big role in whatever achievements we did.
Well, thank you. I'll just come on calls every week and get a little motivation here. So thank you for saying that. But we can get back to the roles of coaching and Hal's world because I love hearing. First of all, Hal, I love that it was just happenstance that made you start coaching. And I wonder if you would have realized how much you loved it by getting involved in another way. But yeah, it's amazing how life's small chances just divert
Yeah.
your entire world, right?
No, I mean, totally. And it's mostly what I do now. It's not only coaching, but I'm trying to redesign this player advisory stuff too for junior hockey. I was at a meeting for that. That's why I was a little bit late. So anyways, every kid on the team has got a certain skill set. And you got your goal scorers, you got your goalies, which, goalies most important, defenseman next, wings, dime a dozen. You got to have good centers. Um, but everybody can block shots. That you don't need any special skill. You need courage, and you need some practice at it. And then when you do, you need to celebrate it. You, as a coach, you should celebrate it. So in our game the other day, we had one block shot, which isn't enough. But you know that 8 block shots saves a goal against. Because the average is 1 out of 8 on net goes in from the National Hockey League all the way down, unless you're. Well, it took us 32 shots the other day to score a goal. So it wasn't until the second period we, against a team that was really obviously not very good. But and I try to find ways to recognize and celebrate those players that do amazing things. Like how about a back check that strips the puck from the opponent in neutral ice and turns it back and goes the other way. I mean, that player has got great speed and great reaction, and I celebrate it on the bench. I point it out to players on the bench and say, you can all do this. You can all do this. This is not extraordinary. We talk about things that take no talent. Showing up on time takes no talent. Having a great attitude takes no talent. Being supportive of your teammates takes no talent. You just have to make a conscious decision to do this stuff. And as coaches, certainly, and we just roll the lines. We don't have a power play. Everybody's on the power play. Everybody is on the penalty kill. And we recognize them for the jobs that they're doing. Because I'm coaching girls age 14 to 18, I think. Ninth graders to seniors. And so the younger girls need role models, and hopefully the older girls, are demonstrating on the ice. And when the younger girls do it, we need to celebrate that, and we need to recognize them for those efforts. And we're going to have actually an off-ice session on roles. And I'm not going to outline them for them. I'm going to let them articulate what they think the different roles on a hockey team are that result in long-term success, not only for themselves, but for the organization and for the team.
Hell, we last night we had Tom Rennie and Craig Parrott on with a number of our coaches from Girls Hockey Calgary. Craig had just returned from the National U18 Championships, where a team is picked from all the best players across Alberta. And they're all at private schools, and they're all star players, and they're all offensive players. And the difficulty with putting that team together, they don't understand the importance of different roles. and they don't get to play the roles they play with their club teams.
Nope.
And as a result, in short-term competition, you're dealing with egos and actually a lack of knowledge of how to play the game for 200 feet and play the right way by back checking and being responsible.
Yep.
And it was really quite a talk, but it relates to what you're saying. It's easy when you roll the lines and they're getting to play. And they actually surprise you in terms of how well they perform. I've had more success rolling than I have shortening. And so the idea of you providing immediate feedback and celebrating those important details without the puck.
Can I just add one thing to your U18 national championships was that there's also always two teams selected from Ontario.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that play in Ontario. And so they pick 1 through 40, they rank them. And 1 through 20 go on Team Red. That's always the dominant team. They usually win every year. And then 21 through 40 go on Team Blue. This year, neither team made it to the championship game. Team Ontario Blue faced off against Team Ontario Red, and Team Ontario Blue won the bronze medal. And I love to see that. I mean, you feel for the girls on Team Red because they're touted as the highest ranked players, but that to me just shows really good coaching right there, that they're doing probably the little things. I didn't watch the game, but they managed to beat the better players. I love to see that.
I was going to say that I would love to coach Team Blue.
Right, exactly. It'd be way easier, right? Expectations are all on the shoulders of Team Red.
The guy that was a master at this was Herb Brooks. And when he built that 1980 Olympic team and the way he built his Gopher hockey team, he brought kids in to fill roles, whether they knew it or not. That's what he did. And, and then he was a hard coach to play for, really hard to play for. And he kind of played with their minds a lot. And he kept them on edge. He kept them working hard. But, he didn't arguably pick the best hockey players. The best players to fill the roles to do the job that they were going to have to go do. And they got it done. And that's pretty amazing. And I know a lot of the players, and some of them were actually quite surprised they made that team. And then, so I think we all look at that, and I've had a lot of teams where we've been the underdogs and we've prevailed, and it's about playing everybody and everybody having a role and doing all the little things that star players don't do. And I've always talk about, blocking shots and stuff. I mean, if, when Jim Johnson and who was it that they took over the Washington Capitals mid-year, right about this time of year when Boudreau got fired, and they had Ovechkin and 2 or 3 other Russian players on that team. And, I was texting him during the playoffs. And I mean, during the game, I'm texting him, and he in between periods, he's answering me. And I know in the third period, like 7 minutes in the third period, and Ovechkin's not coming out on the ice, and the other Russians aren't out on the ice. They're sitting on the bench. And I asked him, well, what's the deal? And he goes, oh, those effing Russians won't play defense. And I go, well, okay, that's bench management for sure. And they won the game. It was a 1-goal game. And I've always used this sort of idea is you would never ask, Ovechkin or Crosby or Gretzky to block shots in the D zone. I mean, why would you do that? You got guys that can block shots in the D zone. And you got to know what your players' abilities are and put them in positions for them to be successful and help the team be successful. So anyways, yeah, that's important. That's real coaching, doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Hell, just precious. That story, texting a coach during the game and him taking time to reply to you. I mean, it takes a lot of wherewithal and respect to do that.
Uh,
And I think it speaks to you know, the capacity of the person coaching the NHL team and yourself to communicate in the heat of the game
uh,
because you're not caught up in the game, but yet you are, but you're not distracted by it.
right.
You 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 make decisions in terms of doing what's right and best. And to have a success story like that and winning the game with you texting, that's amazing, an amazing story. And you know, Hal, when I wrote this, I didn't know where it would start, but I asked the question about how you got started. You mentioned that. And what's the biggest change that's occurred in coaching today that you might be able to advise today's coaches on that is happened and how to deal with it?
So this kind of goes, Tom and I had a little conversation by email last couple of days. And, and I'm about practices and practice plans. And, the coach's site has got probably 2 million drills on it now. And my sense of what's changed is that coaches will go and pull a lot of drills for a practice. And this is a little bit out of what the current situation I'm coaching in. And that practice plan will have 14 or 15 different drills. And, they run for 5 minutes and they run for 7 minutes and then they change. But so many of them don't relate to the game. They're skills drills. They're not preparing the team for playing the game. This is just my personal opinion. And I think there's an over reliance on just running. There's a difference between running drills and coaching. And if you set up a drill and you stand and watch, and then the players go through it 4 or 5 times, and then you blow the whistle, there's got to be a teaching component involved in there somehow in those drills, and they have to be relevant. And I think whatever you do in practice, it has to translate to the game, the next day or 2 days later. And so I think there's access to almost too much information, too many ideas. Tom sent me his drill that your practice that you were running the other night. And that's and we're going to run some of your drills, Tom. I like a number of them. But if you look at all the drills that are out there, they're all just, there's only so many things you can do on the ice. And you can keep adding components to them. The players going one way and then going the other way and getting a pass from here and getting a pass from there and coming back. But in the context of when the players get into the game, a lot of that just kind of disappears. So one of the things that I want to teach this year is I want to teach players the 3 or 4 options on a zone entry. And we've started on it, but for the most part, and I don't know, Tom, with your group, a zone entry is you attack the blue line wide, and the defenseman comes over and you have a scrum on the wall, or the defenseman rides you down to down into the corner. And the feedback I've been getting from players is, well, and I'm just going to outskate her. Yeah, but I said, look where you end up. You don't end up in a scoring position. So let's come up with some different solutions. So my goal is that they at least have the game awareness to attack a defenseman and fake one way and go the other way, and or find their way to the middle and drive down the Royal Road and get a high quality scoring chance. And with F2 coming through and driving the other D back. And these are sort of conceptual things. And we've been practicing it, but it hasn't shown up in the games yet, which would tell me we haven't practiced it enough. It's like any other skill. So, I mean, kids will shoot 1,000 pucks in a month, and they'll take four shots in a month in a game. And so to some degree, they're focusing on the wrong stuff. And, I think you have to coach a long time to get to a level of understanding of how to make your players better at playing the game. You don't have to be the best skater. You don't have to have the biggest shot, but you do need to play the game better than the other team. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does to us.
Yeah, to us.
And it's like we've been around a long time to where this is what you're saying is automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, here we are mentoring coaches now. I am. Tom's coaching and trying to get them to be more aware of exactly what you said. Playing the game, thinking on your feet, executing with whatever skill set you've got, making the best decisions possible in a timely fashion, executing so you get good shots. And there's so much more than just the skill. It's the putting of those skills together so that you shine in the competition. And it's skill, repetition, practice. I call it deliberate. Most coaches do deliberate drills where you pass here, shoot here, predictable locations, no decision making involved. And I think one of Tom's theories of let the game teach in small area games and the game jokers on the sides that you can share the puck with and get it back from, that teaches hockey sense.
Yep.
There's more passes being made, more shots being taken out of practice with purpose, not just mundane, put it on the net. And when you talk about zone entries, well, what's the biggest zone entry in minor hockey? Dumping it in.
Dumping it in.
That's it. Dump it in and forecheck and get a turnover, and something will happen, and it works. For some teams, they're going to win championships dumping it in and forechecking. But I think what we're talking about is developing the players to possess that puck, make better use of it together. And we know that's where the game's going. But the immediate outcome you might be better off just dumping it in and running the heck out of their defenseman. And it worked for Florida.
Yeah.
So your kids are watching these games, and coaches of those kids are watching these games and saying, hey, it worked for them. And I know that you can get the results playing that way. simplifying it and getting results and everybody buying it.
Yep.
So I,
Well, I mean, that's coaching to win. And I'm not saying that you don't want a coach to win, but the question is especially with, players under 20 years old, is how we win matter? Is it better for the game? Is it better for all the participants involved? Um, if you have both of those goals in mind, because really you don't know. You're coaching a 15 or 16-year-old. You actually don't know what they're going to be like when they're 18 or 19. All of a sudden the light bulb goes on, and I mean, we've got one of the girls on our team. I coached her. She played Bantam hockey for us, and she is the best skater on the team. But of course, she's now playing Bantams and dealing with body checking, and she struggled. But she did score a game-winning goal for us in the playoffs, and then she goes to high school, and it wasn't until last year, she was a sophomore, and mid-year she just all of a sudden just became a player, and she's a really good player now. And but she really struggled as she moved up. For I don't know. I haven't worked with her since she left my team, but now I watch her and I go, wow, that she had everything except she just didn't quite get it, and now she gets it. And I think the other thing you have to be really, patient with players, and I think you got to be honest with them too, um, and be supportive. I'm going to talk with one of our players tonight after our game, and I want to know how she's feeling about stuff and how we can support her better. Um, and it's a fascinating. This coaching gig is, and I'm still trying to figure stuff out. So I send Tom emails, and we exchange ideas, which is pretty fun. So
well, I think our curiosity to learn is what drives us having these calls. And what you've just talked about, everything you've talked about is just pure learning. Um,
ah,
what are you going to learn today from today? Tom's going to run a practice. There's going to be games on the weekend. He's missing one of the games for his daughter's birthday. Both him and Jim are away, and the staff's getting a chance to experience being responsible for it.
oh, it's
That's
great.
all a learning opportunity. And, it's not, oh my God, we might lose the game because you're not there. It's about learning and developing those coaches and the players benefiting from that experience, adapting, and just respecting what the new coaches are trying to do and doing their best. So I like what you said about being patient, honest, and supportive. And I want to ask you about the word honest. And there's a point where players do the same thing, cardinal thing, over and over again. And you want to be honest with them and get them to change that behavior. And
Yep.
one of the best examples to me is they just stay out too long. And I evaluate coaches based on if the players are staying out too long, are the coaches talking to them at the end of an extended shift? So I speak to the coaches and say, it's on you. Somehow you have to be honest and address that with the team and the players. So the parents understand the value of, importance of shorter, high tempo shifts. So can you speak to examples of, it's hard to, hey, you're shooting pucks from stand too wide and you're shooting pucks from everywhere as opposed to getting to the middle of the ice.
Mhm.
We have a player that does that. That's one of the best players on the team that just shoots pucks on the net. Doesn't see options around her. Um, doesn't get to a better shooting area. It's just all about scoring. Now, how do you be honest? To what degree, when and how do you approach those kind of players who are they're great kids. They just don't know. How do you make them aware of what they don't know?
Well, I think it's education. I mean, both our teams, our varsity and our junior varsity, it's a 40-second target. In fact, I saw a stat this morning. I don't know if it's true or not. The Sidney Crosby's average shift length is 39 seconds. Now probably gets a lot more shifts than half the roster, but he gets on and he gets off, and we're really pressing that with our girls. And the stats from our first game was we were at about 59 seconds, and it does give us a team average, it gives us individual averages, and we've sort of put it in a case that if you stay for a minute and a half, you're stealing minutes from your teammates. And you guys use your covenant, but we've got a similar version of that, and it's respect for teammates, respect for the team, being supportive. Well, how is that supportive when you're taking a minute and a half shift, and your teammates, and we're sometimes playing four lines, so the next line's going to go, well, I'm going to take a minute and a half shift. I've been sitting here for a long time. I've been sitting here for 5 minutes waiting to play. And of course the parents are, would probably be saying to their player, well, if the line ahead of you stays out a long time, you better do the same thing. I mean, that's happening. They're not evil. They think that's just good advice to their kids. So we work it pretty hard. We're going to keep working that till we get down to that 40-second shift issue. I think it's just having relationships and constantly, focusing on key elements of playing the game that matter. And it's just like everything else. I tell the kids, the habits you develop here in practice is exactly how you're going to play the game. Okay. And so if you don't, that's why we run 40-second shifts on our cross ice hockey. And then when I blow the whistle, they have to sprint to the blue line, just like they're doing a line shift. And the next group has to wait till they get there and get out and do their 40 seconds. And, we'll get it down, but what is that? What's the rule on this stuff? Repetition, 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 and then do it some more until it becomes it's just the way we play hockey. And, is Sammy Jo still on? She likes my stories.
I think she had a meeting.
Oh, with a medium skilled Bantam team in our regional playoffs, and we were playing the number 2 ranked team in the state. And for both of us, it was second game of the day. And the other team was only playing 2 lines. Their third line had barely touched the ice in the first game. And with us, they didn't touch the ice very often. And we get in the third period, and we've got a game that's like, it's either tied or it's a 1-goal game. And I started changing lines. I mean, I bet we were running 15 to 20 second. And if there was a stoppage of play and we went out for the face-off and you dropped the puck and one of the refs blew the whistle to redo the face-off, I'd send 5 new players out. And my assistant coach, who had played for the Gophers, played a little in the East Coast League, and he was coaching the D. And he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Just trust me. This is going to work. We're going to run these guys right out of the building." And we did. And we beat them. And that ended their playoffs. And I heard, anecdotally from other people in that community that coach was so furious that we did that to him and knocked him out of the playoffs. I mean, for years he was angry. I said, "Well, you just got out coached, dude. I mean, you wore your players out and we put you through the meat grinder in the third period and we beat you." I mean, that's just paying attention. So, yeah, I just think that, well, you and Tom, if you disagree, really, I would love to hear some, contrary opinions, but you got to focus on those things that really matter, and then there's other stuff that doesn't matter a whole lot. And if our job is to get these kids to play well and get them ready to play at the next level, we got to figure out what it is that they need to do to play at the next level. That's our deal, because we've got kids that are going to go on to play college hockey out of our program. And
I'm agreeing with everything you say, Al.
thank you. I appreciate it. I'll send the money. Do you take Venmo?
Al and Tom, I want to bring up a point, and it relates to honest coaching and the fine line of when do you address things, what's the right time, and how do you do it. I learned this year, Tom, watching the U13s. One team has, I think, one or two returning players, and a couple others that are starting to emerge as U15 prospects. They're going to get to the next level if they do things the right way. Now, two of the returning players have a bad habit. Number one is the defenseman try to carry the puck the length of the ice, and they're not buying time and space quarterbacking and moving the puck. At this level, well, you can't wheel anymore. They forecheck and angle very well. So straight wheeling is impossible. Nobody goes coast to coast in the U13 league anymore. The second thing is some of the best D, they want to make a difference. That's why they wheel. Then they dump the puck in 5-on-5 and they forecheck. And hell, they dump the puck in with a penalty kill and forecheck. I've seen it in 2 or 3 games. And these are kids that are going to play U15. So that's a habit. They've got to learn, hey, you won't be able to do this at U15. They're going to make the team because they have the skill set. But are they seeing the ice, making the right decisions? Well, they've got the habit of always carrying the puck and not looking. We need them to be aware of options, move it, headman the puck, and we need them to dump it in if you have to, but don't forecheck. So you're the head coach of those players. Tom, how would you address it?
Well, I get those players out of there, and I got a couple. We have 4 girls that played U13 last year that play defense for us. And like right tonight, one of the things we're doing is we're playing a full ice game of 4-on-4, but there has to be at least one pass in each zone. And, that gets them aware, and people breaking and this sort of thing, just the habit of looking, because I think most of the time they don't look, they get the puck and the other team is like pylons are going around.
Yeah.
They have no idea, they don't care where their teammate is. They're just there to, go end to end kind of stuff. So that's what I found for me is pretty effective. is one pass in each zone or 2 second games, things like that.
Yeah,
Oh, that makes sense.
excellent point. Anyway, hell, how much longer do you think you're going to keep doing this? The juice keeps the juices flowing.
Um, I told my wife the other day that this might be the last year, and she says, "You've been saying that for 15 years." I think it's um, I think a little bit will be how my health is, and a year from January I'll be fully retired from my day job, and I'm working on putting together with a couple other people a real value added advisory program for hockey players, mostly boys, but I think there'll be some applications for girls too, that are heading, off, that want to go play junior hockey. And it's the advisory business is charging a lot of money to families, and I don't see the value proposition. And I am one of those people. I mean, I want to do way more than what is currently being done, and it's going to require some other skills and some school counsel, some educational counseling and work with these kids, and the off ice training and all this other stuff. But so I have that I can do. I got other things I can do, but this is what I love to do, and so. But I also need to resolve, if I were to stay in this current role, I got to resolve my role. I have to have a little clearer understanding of what my role is, because I'm just an assistant coach for of 4 assistant coaches for 2 teams, although I don't have any input on one of them. And so, it's okay, but I learned a long time ago. I'm a head coach. I'm not an assistant coach, and I can be an assistant coach, but I'm better at head coaching, and I enjoy it more. And I love to have good assistant coaches, that where we share the work. So to answer your question, I don't know, Wally. I'd like to keep doing it, but I have lots of other things that I'd like to do too. So, but I've tried to quit a couple times. It didn't work. It's like it's like failing retirement, right? It's, um, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm just kind of focused on the next couple months, and then we'll figure it out after that. So,
Tom, what do you think? How long are you going to keep at this?
I don't know, like hell. So it depends on your health, eh?
yeah.
So, like yourself, you kind of had to pack it in, right?
Yeah,
As far as going on the ice goes, so you do that job,
yeah,
you know. So, that's where I'm at. It's funny because I remember when I was 70, I went to, I think it was Bratislava. So I'm at the International Coaching Conference and I'm in the front row on the right end of it. And this guy's talking, then right in the middle of his talk, he turned, he said, "How old are you?" And I just laughed. I told him I'm 70. Well, now I'm 78. I was at the conference this May in Stockholm. So, but there are a lot of people that put a timeline on me. Like I considered myself by far the most qualified for the AAA team, and that very knowledgeable group. That one guy got his college job for him, and then the girl that was head of Canadian women hockey and another star player. They interviewed for the AAA team, and I didn't even get a second interview. And so there's some people have a closer timeline on me than I do. So,
Hmm. I was in Bratislava the same time.
Yeah,
I don't know if I saw you there. I don't know where I met you. One of those conferences. I thought they were great. I had a lot of fun in Bratislava. That was
yeah,
a
I think I might
fun
have
time.
met you in Prague, but I don't know. I've gone to about 6 or 7 of those things.
Well, let me see. I went to Helsinki, Bratislava, uh, Prague, and then I was up to the one in Canada. What was it? Up in Quebec City,
Yeah,
where where they did it in French. And then anytime the Canadians were playing, they shut the conference down. It was fun though. I enjoyed all those.
yeah,
I was coach and chief of Minnesota hockey at the time, and I had a travel budget, so I let them. But then I came back and used all that information I learned. I thought the Europeans do a great job with those coaching conferences. I always learned a lot there. So
yeah. It was a good one this year. Last year they had 3 days and they did a different format. It wasn't as good. There wasn't a lot of meat and potatoes in it.
yeah.
It was a lot of philosophy stuff. And anyways, this year I thought it was really good in Stockholm.
So boys, I got to go home. I got a guy coming to start up the heater in my garage. The pilot light's out. Because it's below freezing every night now, and this is fun. I'm sorry I had problems getting on, um, but I love these conversations. Uh, they're truly one of the things I look forward to every week. So between that and my guitar coach, those are my two favorite things every week.
Well, when Wally puts on that thing with the Tom Rennie,
Yeah.
he's just excellent.
Okay. I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, well, he talks about shift length and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and I think it's really good.
No, that's great.
Tom, I
Well, I'm
downloaded it this morning. When I'm done this, I'm going to send the 1 hour presentation. So Tom began talking. We were waiting for Craig to join, and we got on early. And Tom began talking about Pavel Datsyuk. He was
mm,
coaching New York, and how Pavel was such a complete player who demanded being uncomfortable at practice. He wanted to be challenged.
mm.
So Tom was passing pucks to him in the neutral zone and trying to wire them hard tape to tape. And after 5 minutes, Pavel came over to him and said, Tom says, I don't want it on my stick. Put it
Ah,
in the air, put it in my feet. I got to learn to take passes that aren't on tape.
Well, yeah, he said, yeah, I never get perfect passes in a game.
Yeah. And
so I tell you a story. I traveled with the Soviet junior national team in 1982, maybe, when the World Championships was here, but also we played in Winnipeg, and it's finally come back here. It's going to be here this year. But I was with the Soviet team, and I watched them practice. They practiced passing to each other waist height and knocking that pass down into their feet. I mean, that was a skill set that they just practiced. And I've never seen anything like that in the in
I
this
saw
side
the
of the.
same thing.
Did
I
you?
was doing the hockey camp for the Finnish Association in Viramaki,
Yeah,
and the Kazan, the Russian pro team, was practicing before us.
yeah,
And I walked in and I thought, geez, I thought Russians could pass. And they're throwing pucks, like everywhere and all this kind of stuff. And I talked to their coach after, and he said, "Oh, we're practicing taking bad passes."
yeah,
This
yeah. I
coach,
mean, it's so important.
this coach was so heavy, and kind of like Ken Hitchcock, I guess. He couldn't get his skates on to go on the ice, so he coached from the bench with a loudspeaker.
Yeah,
So that was something I never seen before either.
I
But he'd
think it's,
been at U of A and he to learn from what's his face there, Claire Drake. So his English was pretty good.
we were with a high school group down in Chicago in a tournament in the fall, and there was a Russian team down there. My son was on our team, and I was helping out the assistant coach. And we watched after our game, the Russian team played their first game, and my son and I went up and watched from the walkway above. And my son goes, "Dad, they're going to get killed." And I said, "Son, they're going to win the tournament." And he goes, "Why do you say that?" I go, "Because they have the puck all the time." And they did win the tournament. And there was more of that classic Russian play. They get the puck and they keep it until they put it in the net. I mean, it was really something to watch. So anyways, I got to run, boys. Have a great weekend. I got a couple games. Tom, you got a couple games this weekend?
Yeah, Saturday. Well, I won't be on the Saturday, but we got two.
Yeah. Well, good
One
luck.
away and one at home.
Yep. So we'll see what we're made of today. We're playing a pretty good opponent, so we'll see how good we are. So
All the
Oh, good
all
luck
right,
best.
with
guys.
it.
All the best.
Yeah, have a good weekend, everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, see you, Al.
Boy, what a session, Tom.
Well,
Unbelievable
like he
background.
was, Minnesota's the best place in the US for developing players, and he was ahead of their technical thing for years.
Yeah.
And I met him. I don't remember what conference I met him at, but I've known him for a long time.
You
And
know,
he's the
I
guy that
wanted
put
to,
together those skating videos,
yeah,
Minnesota skating, all that sort of thing.
I wanted to get him to talk about all the work he did for Minnesota hockey and USA hockey because, really those things have gone the way of the dodo bird and everybody's doing drills they're not capable of doing because they haven't developed skills. And then I really like your share today on the making the pass in each zone because that teaches them to get their head up and support the puck. It's
You see, and that's a real European thing. That's Johanny.
yeah, yeah,
And a lot of the stuff I do, like the transition games, are also. I don't see very many of them, but that's Erica Westerland.
huh?
So that's the thing about going around and learning from not just the North American, but
Yeah,
you know the Europeans, and they have such a background in soccer.
yeah,
I think a lot of stuff comes out of soccer because I know soccer, they use little games all the time in soccer.
yeah, yeah. It's a possession game. There's no doubt about it. So, well, anyway, I'm gonna call it a day and see if I can stop this recording and um,
You're telling mine.
just wait.
Alrighty, well.